captive in the hands of the Muslim Brotherhood. He doesn't know yet what his fate will be. But it's, again, they're all carried on this burst of euphoria of democracy. It's, you know, lack of a better definition, maybe it's a sort of a festival or an orgy of democracy, only to wake the next morning with a hangover to face the same reality that you had before you started the party, you know. Unfortunately, you know, I'm sorry, I'm very cynical. When I finished my studies in 1979 in the States, I came to the Middle East back and I said, you know, now that I've learned and I've studied, now I can bring hope to people. Just to find out that it's not hope that drives them, but fear. Fear. Fear causes people either to take action or to refrain from action, not hope in the Middle East. And that's a great tragedy. That's a great tragedy. There were a few bursts of light when Egypt got under the rule of Sadat. Sadat was smart. He said, well, I'll go and fight the Israelis in the desert just to regain my strength. Everything that he got from the desert, okay? He said, go fight them in the desert just to regain my respect and my stature. And then use what I've gained in order to bring life to the desert. He understood, you know why? He understood the basic problems of Egypt because he was a falah. Falah is a farmer. And the farmer in Egypt, it's not a landowner, it's a guy that has a small lot of land, and every year he thinks, breaks his head, how am I going to support the other two members of my family when all I can produce is for 8 people, and now I have to support 12 people. This is the basic, you know, problem of subsistence and living in Egypt. And therefore he empathized with his people. When he became leader, he said, first of all, we have to take care of the falah. We have to take care of our agriculture, our economy, being able to produce more food. So he got Israeli expert, and my father included, and everything, and the company, and they put 2 experimental farms. And then he called Sharon. Sharon was the Minister of Agriculture. And he said, you see this man, I ran after him in the desert. I didn't capture him, but now I got him. Now you tell his advisor, you use him for 2 things. 2 things he's good at, this man. He said, he's good at war. Yeah, you know, they know how to fight, these Israelis. And they know how to grow food, take it, you know. And you know, they started a whole set of settlements along the western desert, western border with Libya. New experiment in farm experimenting to try and extend the Arable land beyond the delta. You know, Egypt has this delta, the Nile and the delta, all the rest is desert. Because he understood, look, he came from the desert, he came from this, and he said that you give them water, you give them crops, they can develop, they can sustain themselves. That was his main vision and main idea. That's why he said no more war, no more, because he knew the worst war that Egypt has to fight is a war on poverty. But then he got assassinated. So a lot of the things that he started doing, there was no leader that could sweep people to carry him and understand this is how Egypt can save itself. Okay? And not wait for outside intervention or outside help. Of course, the United States aid helped, but he was in the right track in how to divert this, and it started also political reforms. But first of all, to feed the people. He started from the ground up, and not, you know, if you start a revolution and say, okay, we'll bring democracy, but at the bottom people have nothing to eat, that's a sure formula for anarchy, not democracy. Democracy is the kind of regime that works under very, very, I would say, unique condition. Stable condition, air conditioned, everything has to be working fine. Otherwise, it's a very fragile type of creature. And if you don't have those conditions, you have to put it in the incubator for a while, you know, until it grows. Now, you can't take a baby who was prematurely born and send him out, you know, to live on there. He dies immediately. That's what happened to Egyptian democracy. It still has to be in the incubator, supported, guided, and still create a situation where people don't vote with their stomachs, you know, they vote with their heads. But in Egypt, they don't vote. They're hungry. Remember the story about the war and peace. He said, fine, I'll send you 1 million workers. I have 1 million hungry workers. That will be war and peace for me, that I know that they can find some jobs. I can give them jobs in Egypt. That's yes.
For the Middle East countries who are afraid of Iran's hegemony, encroaching hegemony, and having to decide whether to align with Iran or the United States, what does President Obama's tossing Mubarak, longtime ally Mubarak, under the bus telegraph to these other leaders in making a choice of who to align with?
Yeah, I think, Scott, this is what most people, most analysts in the United States that I've been hearing on CNN, except Anderson Cooper, is saying that this is a critical dilemma. A critical dilemma. It's a real dilemma. It's not just something that you can say on your State of the Union address or on a televised, say, yeah, we support it. It's a real dilemma because, you know, if this happens, the country after country which will fall will have a dire effect both on American interests, but also on the possibility that there will ever be democracy in those countries in the Middle East, you know? Because under the reign of, when you don't have democratic culture, strong democratic culture in these countries, and you have a ruthless control regime of radical Islamic groups, you know, which are, they don't care to use force or to kill people, and we've seen what happened in the Iranian Revolution, and this is the model to be emulated. That's the worst thing that could happen. It's not just takeover of Saudi Arabia or of Jordan, and it's not just that it presents a threat to Israel, to their own societies, because these are not regimes that are willing to change and to open up to people, to let them engage in various activities that can also develop their economy. They're in the tight reign of control, and they want, instead of going into the future in many respects, except weapons, okay, to go back to the Stone Age, bring those people back to the Stone Age, where women will be set in one, they can't use woman power in the way that because they don't give them rights. So I mean, there's something much deeper than just a threat to Israel or a threat to the United States interests. This is throwing the Middle East back to the Middle Ages. That's why everybody should stand up and say, and the President of the United States in particular, say, okay, this is where the buck stops. You know, we will support these movements, but we will not allow the radical Iranian, groups to use that. And for that, I think there has to be a much more aggressive policy towards Iran in respect, with a clear warning. If you start continuing to meddle in other countries' affairs, like Egypt, we will meddle in your affairs. Now, you don't have to say it publicly. You just tell it through various channels. Show them. You meddle in Egyptian affairs. Next day, you know, there'll be several mysterious explosions in Qum and in Tehran. And then when you go to sleep at night, you know, after you carry the fairy speech to the entire Arab world, Mr. Ahmadinejad, you'll be uncertain whether it's safe to sleep in this bed tonight or should you move to the next safe house that you have. The same thing. That's what they're doing in other countries. They're instilling fear. Fine. Okay, is this the tactics that you're using? It's a reciprocal thing, you know? Reciprocal. You want to engage? Fine, we're ready to engage. The way you engage other countries, that's the way we're going to engage you. Well, we can talk to you, whatever, but, you know, if you meddle in other countries' affairs, it gives the right of the United States and other countries to meddle in your affairs. And that's the thing they fear most of all, by the way. So then maybe they'll hold back, say, wait, it's not worth it. You know, we got to stop this, so we got to hold back. Iran has been, the Iranian regime is not stupid, you know, they're clever. Sometimes when they feel the pressure and the power, they back off, like when they stopped their nuclear programs, so they saw there was such pressure. When the United States invaded Iran, and they say, oh, now everybody's focused on invaded Iraq, everybody's focused on Iraq, this is the good time to restart everything. So they steal bases, they use all sort of things, but if they feel that there is a force that tells them, you got to stop, they'll back off, because they don't want to lose power. That's one thing they don't want to lose power. After 1400 years, Allah has given them the opportunity to be the leading force in the Muslim world. You know, don't lose this opportunity by some stupid mistakes that you conduct in the power play in the Middle East. Yes, please.
I was just a little concerned because I've always been told that Egypt making peace with Israel was the keystone that allowed there to be stability, because no Arab country or army would go after Israel after that. And I'm just curious to know what your opinion is on what are the chances of outside groups like Hezbollah and Hamas taking advantage of the instability right now and maybe provoking Israel.
That's the scenario I portrayed. I gave you a headline, you know, gradual hostile takeover using the Trojan horse tactic. That's the thing. That's what they do. They do it in Lebanon. Each country, they adjust it to the specific condition of the country, but the overall formula say gradual. It's not right away. It's gradual. so that people don't wait to that in the morning. Oh, we got to fight them. It happens slowly, slowly. And sometimes they come with bribe, with money, with food for the people. Good, they're the good savior. I predict, I bet you, if things fall apart in Egypt, it's going to be the same process that Hezbollah engaged in Lebanon back in the